You know, as an American citizen, assuming that you are one, if you're not, if you become one, and speaking as one, you and I do not have the right as in, constitutional right, we do not have the right to vote for President of the United States. Think that sounds pretty extreme? Well, just ask the 5 right-wingers of the Supreme Court in 2000 who decided the infamous Bush v. Gore case. In their decision, Justices Kennedy, O'Connor, Rehnquist, he was the Chief Justice, Scalia, and Thomas, and they're still with us, said right out loud in front of God and everybody that, quote, the individual citizen has no federal constitutional right to vote for electors for the President of the United States, end of quote. So how did that happen? Well, unlike U.S. representatives and senators, the President of the United States is not directly elected by we the people. Instead, the framers put it in the Constitution that the President is elected by the Electoral College. And the states can each decide how their electoral votes are divvied up. And in all but 2 states, whoever wins the majority of votes in a state wins all of that state's electoral votes. So even though there have been a few cases where one candidate got more votes nationally, like Al Gore getting 500,000 more votes nationwide than George W. Bush, that was the exception to the rule. Generally, the winner of the national popular vote also wins the Electoral College. And of course, because the Constitution says that the Electoral College vote decides who's our president, that's a pretty important thing. Which is why now that the Republican Party has been hijacked by a small group of cranky billionaires, that party is trying to rig the Electoral College in what have historically been blue or Democratic voting states. They're really getting close to pulling this thing off. And I predict that you're going to see at least 3 states, probably 5, do this by the 2014 elections. But if you dial back to 2010, in the first election after the Citizens United decision, hundreds of millions of dollars in outside spending by billionaires like the Koch brothers put Republicans in control of these traditionally blue states that they had been targeting for years, including Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. And once Republicans got charge, and I would add Wisconsin to that as well, once Republicans, and arguably Indiana, once Republicans got charge of those state legislatures, they gerrymandered the congressional districts, and in fact, you could probably toss in Florida, to increase the number and the safety of the Republican seats. And that's why right now Republicans control the House of Representatives, even though nationwide, House Democratic candidates received more than 1 million votes more than House Republican candidates around the nation last November. Nationally, the Republicans lost the House, but they still control it because of their election rigging at the state level. And now they want to rig the election for President of the United States. And they may well begin with Michigan. So instead of this current winner-take-all system where, whoever wins the majority of the vote in the state gets all that state's electoral college votes, Republicans want Michigan's electoral college votes doled out based on which presidential candidate won each congressional district, with 2 extra votes, the extra 2 votes going to the state's popular vote winner. Republicans in Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are considering similar changes, and Republican Party officials, including RNC Chair Reince Priebus, have thrown their support behind this idea of rigging the presidential elections in the blue states. Now, they don't want to do it in the red states because then, the red states go all for the Republican, and you can't. And then, some Democrats might pick up electoral votes. But if they can pull this thing off, it may be a long time before a Democrat is ever elected president again. Even though the majority of Americans will vote for Democrats over and over and over again for president. For example, President Obama swept the 6 main battleground states, Florida, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin, in the last election. And since each state operates on a winner-take-all basis, the president got all 106 electoral votes out of those 6 battleground states. Romney got 0. But if this new election rigging scheme had been in place last year, then President Obama would have only gotten 47 Electoral College votes from the battleground states, while Mitt Romney would have won those states with 59 votes, even though he got hammered in the popular vote in each one of those states. Mitt Romney lost each state. And if all the states of the nation had gone along with this election rigging scheme that the Republicans are proposing right now in Michigan and Virginia and Pennsylvania, then billionaire Mitt Romney would be our president today, even though he lost the national vote by almost 3 million votes. I mean, here's the bottom line. These guys have this thing figured out. The billionaires and the Republicans that they own know that they are a minority in this country. Their hard-right bigotry toward gays and women turns off young voters and female voters, and gay voters, of course. Their xenophobia and their mistrust of non-whites have turned off the growing minority electorate. And their economic principles, from Reaganomics to austerity to trickle-down economics, they're slowly destroying our country, and the people have figured this out. So you can't win an election fair and square, you rig it. And we have to do something to head off this billionaire takeover of our presidential elections. So what do? I suggest more democracy. There is a way to eliminate the power of the Electoral College that doesn't require amending the Constitution. See, because the Electoral College is in the Constitution, if you want to just take it out and say, whoever gets the majority of the votes, that's the president, you'd actually have to amend Article 2 of the Constitution. But you can get around it. Pretty straightforward. You replace the Electoral College with a system of more democracy, a national popular vote that elects our president based on which candidate gets the most votes nationwide. Plain and simple, and more importantly, Republican rig-proof. 9 states have already passed national popular vote laws. And in those states, they're still doing winner-take-all right now, but what they have committed by law is that their electors, their members of the Electoral College, will vote for whichever candidate wins the national popular vote, even if that candidate lost in that state's Electoral College, in that state, and therefore should have lost that state's Electoral College vote. Now, the states that have done this so far include, there's the 9 states. There's 6 small states plus California, Illinois, and Maryland. They account for 132 electoral votes. That's almost half of the 270 needed in the Electoral College to win the presidency. If the national popular vote movement continues to spread and enough states sign up to bring their combined Electoral College votes to 270, then the Electoral College will be functionally dead, along with Republican efforts to rig our elections and corrupt our democracy. This needs to be our game plan from here on out. It's up to us, the 99%, to push back against this nation's corrupt conservative minority and their billionaire backers and stop them once and for all from rigging elections in America. So you can join this movement. Go to nationalpopularvote.com, and I have nothing to do with the people who are running this website. It's just a really, it's a great aggregation of the information on this. Nationalpopularvote.com. There's several other sites out there that talk about it as well. You can just Google it, National Popular Vote, or DuckDuckGo it, and see how you can get involved. Because we need democracy to push back against the billionaire-funded Republican agenda. Because it's all about corrupting democracy, and that's not a good thing in this here republic. I'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So, what do you think? The Republicans going to pull this thing off? Are they going to rig the next presidential election? I think they're really going to take a shot at it.